Alert! Reported gang activity is up 23% this morning. Districts impacted: Kabuki, Pacifica, Haywood, including immediate area. No active law enforcement units available. Caution is advised.
The sun rises over Night City like a middle finger. Smoke, sirens, neon. Someone's getting stabbed in front of a burrito stand for looking at someone the wrong way. A Tyger Claws doing donuts on a bike that's definitely not theirs. And two Valentinos are arguing over who gets to rizz up the bartender who already hates both of them. Just another day in paradise. See, humans are tribal, always have been. But here, the tribe doesn't include you. The state won't save you. The market won't pay you. So you improvise. You find a replacement for everything that failed you. Safety, identity, belonging, purpose. And that replacement is a gang. It's the therapist you can't afford, the family you never had, the job you couldn't get. A branded rebellion, a commodified trauma response. Survival, stylized, or more accurately, different flavors of the same breakdown. Some are cyber-feminists who turn sex work and shotguns into social justice. Some are Patriot cosplayers who think listening to militia podcasts in their mum's basement makes them the second coming of George Washington. Some just wanted lunch and accidentally joined a death cult. Oops. But all of them? They believe in something. No matter how delusional, broken, or batshit it is, they believe. Because belief is the only thing that keeps you sane in a city like this. And if Night City were real, you already know you'd be in one of these gangs. Welcome to What Your Favorite Gang Says About You. Or, in clinical terms, your particular mental illness. With a branded logo. And speaking of branded, let's start with the glitter-drenched idols of weaponized femininity, the monks. Neon saints of soft-core justice, girl-boss paladins of kink-powered virtue, chrome-drenched trauma influencers with a shotgun and a quote tattoo. At least, that's what it says in the glowing graffiti behind Lizzie's bar, right next to a discount BD ad, pushing the most soul-draining, lust-poisoned, post-moral filth Night City's ever encoded. They say they protect the weak, but what they really protect is the sexually unhinged, the kink addicts, the real-skin saints, the trauma-dumping chrome queens with cybernetic claws and 5 layers of eyeliner. But what do they actually do? Run strip clubs, charge protection fees, sell premium brain dances where you get choked out by a chrome dom in a no-tell motel. And if you question the mission, you'll get lit up by a bouncer named Violet, who thinks mutual aid means emptying a drum mag in heels.
Diagnosis: post-patriarchy paranoia with stripper pole psychosis. A performative trauma cult characterized by compulsive empowerment rituals, martyr complexes, and a deep fear of becoming irrelevant between social justice trend cycles.
You like to think this is feminism, that it's empowerment, that it's about uplifting marginalized genders and sexual identities. No. It's pimp activism with a promo code. Patriarchy, monetized and gift-wrapped in just enough ideology to pass as progress. Moral cosplay, funded by degeneracy, marketed with glitter and sold by the hour. Lizzie Borden, the so-called patron saint of the mocks. Yeah, she took an axe to 3 Tyger Claws after they killed one of her girls. The streets call it justice. They call her a legend. What they forget, she owned that girl. She ran the whole kink ring. A responsible girl boss pimp who got herself canonized then turned into a martyr logo for a gang that turned vengeance into a business model and lust into merchandise. Now there's a shrine in her honor, a neon-soaked brain dance lounge with mood lighting, branded merch, and chrome kink content so depraved, even Night City blushes through the bloodstains. If the Mox is your favorite gang, then congratulations. You found feminism with a cover charge, where every strip pole is a sacred symbol. Every slogan feels empowering until you realize it's printed on merch. Every virtue feels righteous until the brain dance ends. Still, in a city full of monsters and maniacs, this might be the softest place to land. Not because it's pure, but because everything else is worse. Under all the glitter and gunpowder, maybe it was never about justice. Maybe it was just about feeling safe, in a place where every alley has a camera, but not a single one will save you. If the Mox are toxic femininity wrapped in glitter, then the animals are toxic masculinity injected straight into the vein. One hides weakness behind slogans. The other hides fear behind muscle. One turns trauma into merch. The other turns it into mass. Because in Night City, if you're broke, broken, and nothing else works, you go to the gym. It's free, it's real, it gives you power, until that power becomes the only thing you believe in.
Diagnosis: Primal Supremacy Delusion, PSD, an identity-fused psychosis, where self-worth is measured in mass, speed, and visible veins. Characterized by ritualized gym worship, pack-based ego hierarchies, and hormonal self-mutilation disguised as self-improvement. Known to reject cyberware, unless it looks like a bicep.
And when the world offers roids, black market boosters, and subdermal muscle implants, you don't just get strong, you mutate. You become the weapon. The body becomes the purpose, and the gym, the altar. In a city ruled by chrome and code, they chose the ancient god, muscle. They say it's about strength, about reclaiming the primal self, but look closer, and you'll see the side effects of too many juice cocktails and one too many freak show influencers. Every animal walks like their biceps hold the truth, but their liver's rotting, their heart's thudding wrong, and their kidneys are crying for mercy. They bleed from their gums, sweat out antibiotics, and slam painkillers like breakfast just to keep their spine from snapping under their own f***ing weight. Their packs don't follow rules, they follow dominance. Alpha this, alpha that, until someone throws a vending machine for making eye contact wrong. They don't need logic. They've got tendons made of war metal. They want ascension, to turn their bodies into something feral, something brutal, something beyond. And in this city, that's almost noble. The animals didn't run from the jungle. They dragged it here. Concrete turned to savanna. Clubs became coliseums. Every alley, a proving ground. But here's the truth, the tragedy. For all their size, their rage, their strength, they're still prey. Not to fists, to bullets, to corp tech, to the system that laughs at muscle. You can train your body into a temple, but this city, it demolishes temples. If the animals are your favorite gang, you're not dumb, you're just done being weak. Tired of pretending that words matter more than action? You wanted to feel powerful, not in theory, in flesh. And in a world full of liars, hacks, and cowards, you chose the only religion you could build with your own hands, even if it kills you.
Night City! I swear to God, they're screwing us harder than a Corpo exec at a Chrome Dolphin party. And we're supposed to smile and say, "Thank you, sir. May I have another?" Not me. Not us. Not 6th Street. Because we're the ones who'll make Night City great again.
You hear that? That's the sound of someone who's absolutely furious, but can't quite explain why. That's 6th Street in a nutshell. A gang built on rage before reason, anger before understanding. A militia that thinks it's rebelling, when all it's doing is volunteering to be the enforcers for the system that broke them. They scream down with the corpos while doing contracts for Militech. They shout free market forever while foaming at the mouth over corpos doing capitalism better than them.
Diagnosis: weaponized dumbassery. A post-rational psychocultural syndrome caused by identity collapse, institutional betrayal, and the desperate reassembly of meaning through militarized nostalgia. Symptoms include quoting philosophers they've never read, mistaking rage for principle, and saluting systems that actively exploit them.
They don't want to dismantle the machine. They want to turn at the wheel. They don't oppose tyranny. They just hate being left out of it. Because once they're in charge, Neighborhood Watch becomes tactical fascism, done up in red, white, and blue. They call it community defense, but it smells a lot like martial law with better PR. Robbery, racketeering, arms trafficking, all rebranded as civic duty. A small price for freedom, at least. That's how they justify it. Ask a 6th Street soldier why the world's falling apart, and you'll get a rage-drenched TED Talk about fiat currency, foreign countries, immigrants, and rainbow flags. Half-baked history, shaky economics, and a moral compass forged in gun show theology. They walk around like they cracked the code, like they see the truth. But they don't understand the first thing about how Night City works. Because Night City isn't some moral war between good and evil. It's a machine, cold, profitable, self-replicating, fueled by the same values they scream about defending. But if 6th Street is your favorite gang, you're just tired. Tired of being overlooked, tired of feeling powerless, tired of watching the city rot while no one lifts a finger. You didn't choose them because they're right. You chose them because they looked like order in a city that runs on chaos. Because deep down, you still want to believe someone can fix it, even if they have no idea how. But what if someone did know how? What if they didn't promise hope? They promised structure. No slogans, no stars and stripes, no free market hallucinations, just guns, orders, and a man with the voice of a war god telling you where to point both. Welcome to Barghest, Night City's only functioning war crime with a flag. These aren't delusional patriots. They're militant realists, true believers in nothing but order and obedience. A gang that doesn't pretend to be a gang, a state with uniforms, a militia with air power, a war that forgot how to end.
Diagnosis: moral burnout with tactical coping mechanism. A condition where repeated exposure to societal collapse results in the rejection of free will, replaced by strict obedience to the nearest uniformed authority, often mistaken for patriotism.
In Dogtown, laws aren't written, they're barked through speakers by Colonel Hansen. A man whose uniform salutes itself, whose every word sounds like a drone strike wrapped in doctrine. You think Dogtown's some Mad Max war zone? Wrong. Dogtown works. It offers the three things Night City never does: housing, employment, meaning. Sure, the housing's bombed out. The job is shoot anything that moves. And the meaning? Whatever Colonel Hansen growls from the high seat over the loudspeakers that day. But still, it's the closest thing to stability this city's got. That's the real Barghest pitch. Every system lied to you. The megacorps, the city, your family. We won't lie. We'll use you. And that's the most honest thing Night City's ever offered. If Barghest is your favorite gang, then you weren't radicalized, you were recruited. You crave chain of command like oxygen. Barked orders, music to your ears. You see chaos and reach for a uniform. You hear a gunshot and call it structure. You'd rather carry ammo than uncertainty, rather take a bullet than take initiative. And if it moves without clearance, you're not asking questions, you're pulling the trigger. Barghest is a holy order for those who surrendered choice, and Dogtown's the last place left where obedience still feels sacred. The future, you've already buried it. Now you guard the grave.
Dios, familia, y la calle. God, family, and the street.
But hey, maybe grave guarding's not your style. Maybe you're not looking for orders or purpose or loyalty enforced by high-caliber ammunition. Maybe you're just trying to look good while the city burns. Enter the Valentinos, Night City's smoothest disaster. A gold-plated gang of tattooed charmers who talk about honor like it's a cologne. They light candles for Santa Muerta right before loading up chrome pistols and shooting anyone who disrespects their cousin's haircut. You think they're dangerous, only if you're allergic to cologne and unresolved machismo. The Valentinos like to think they're cartel lords, but really, they're low-budget reggaeton extras with Catholic guilt and immaculate hairlines. They pull up to a gunfight like it's a quinceañera. Flashy cars, flashier shirts. One hand on the wheel, the other clutching a rosary they haven't touched since Abuela died. They claim turf with lowriders and love songs. Territory isn't enforced, it's admired. That's why half of Haywood worships them, because Mijo died looking sexy. Even the murals make saints out of the fallen, shirtless, tattooed, and bathed in golden light. But don't be fooled, underneath all that glow is a business. Restaurants, auto shops, nightclubs, all family run, all fronts. They run sports betting, prostitution, brain dance studios, and weapons mods. They steal cars, launder money, and move drugs across borders like it's a religious rite. They'll pray for you on Sunday, then sell you a gun on Monday. Balance. And yet, they might be the most moral gang in Night City. Not lawful, not clean, but moral, bound by tradition, fueled by faith, held together by familia. They celebrate quinceañeras and Dia de los Muertos, protect their neighborhood, punish betrayal like it's heresy.
Diagnosis: aesthetic machismo delusion, a culturally encoded identity disorder where masculinity is mistaken for myth and romance is performed like a religion. Symptoms include tactical cologne addiction, chrome crucifix syndrome, and compulsive flirting with both death and women.
And if the Valentinos are your favorite gang, you're all about pageantry. You value style over substance. Looking pretty matters more than winning. All ego, all bravado. You want to die beautiful. Shirt open, guns smoking, while a corrido plays in slow motion behind you. Chingada madre. Tell my aunt I looked fucking good. But still, maybe Jackie was right. They do follow God. They do follow Santa Madre. And honor does mean something to them. They're ridiculous. They're performative. But they're loyal. And in a city full of snakes and liars, even loud, gold-plated loyalty might just be the only thing worth dying for. But honor doesn't always wear gold chains. Sometimes it wears a demon mask and crashes out if you didn't bow low enough. The Tyger Claws like to pretend they're a brotherhood of disciplined warriors. Modern-day samurai in chrome and leather. But the reality? They're just a gang-wide power trip.
a cosplay cult of insecure sadists, draped in neon, drowning in ego, propped up by numbers and Arasaka's weekly allowance. They quote the Yakuza code, Gilito ninjo wa Yakuza no kanbanda. Duty and compassion are the Yakuza's signboard. Then upload curb stomp clips from a Joy Toys burner phone. They talk about discipline, but can't even control their own infighting. Half their meetings end in backroom beatdowns over who gets to run a noodle stand in Kabuki. They talk about honor, but couldn't even handle one angry stripper with a pistol. Lizzie Borden carved up 3 of them, and the riots that followed almost erased them. Because the truth is, every tantrum in Watson, every katana flex in Japantown, every glowing tiger tattoo inked at Ho-Oh Bar is just another way of screaming, "Please, Night City, take me seriously."
Diagnosis: ritualized narcissistic power disorder, a culturally inherited delusion where perceived tradition masks a deep-seated need for control, fear-based respect, and ego validation. Symptoms include choreographed violence, weaponized etiquette, and pathological rage at being ignored.
And if the Tyger Claws are your favorite gang, then you're just addicted to attention, with untreated narcissism and a katana. You got a little power and immediately lost your mind. Now you're cyber-flashing tattoos, beating up teenagers for eye contact, waving katanas in traffic, and calling it the warrior's way. You joined for status. You stayed for the ego trip. Now your drug is intimidation, and your fix, being feared by sidewalk randos and overworked Joy Toys, just trying to finish a shift. All while bowing to Arasaka and praying they toss you another side gig just so you can scrape by. And in Night City, that doesn't make you dangerous. That just makes you embarrassing in 4K. But if you think that's low, you haven't met the bottom yet. If the Valentinos are romance, if the Tyger Claws are theater, if 6th Street is stupidity in uniform, then the Scavs are none of those things. They are the bottom, a sickness, a market built from corpses, the inevitable result of a city that monetizes everything, until even your pain has resale value. Unlike the Barghest, they don't enforce tyranny. Unlike the Tyger Claws, they don't claim turf. Unlike the Mocks, or 6th Street, they don't chant ideology. Unlike the Valentinos, they don't curate identity. They just need you, in pieces. And if you're breathing in Night City, you're just waiting to be processed. A liver, a Koreznikov, a set of premium optics. The Scavs aren't criminals, nor are they rebels, or psychos, or even sadists. They're just entrepreneurs, the most Night City kind, just professionals, with a blatant disregard for human life.
Diagnosis: post-ethical extraction syndrome, a late-stage capitalist condition where moral disassociation enables the monetization of human life at molecular granularity. Symptoms include spreadsheet empathy, biometric opportunism, and emotional latency under 0.5 seconds. Treatment unavailable. Avoid patient at all costs.
Some say they came from the Bratva. Others say they're backed by Soviet spooks, funneling bodies from Night City to Dogtown, where even Colonel Hansen looks the other way. But origins don't matter. What matters is what they do. And what they do is you. Mutilation, abduction, forced disassembly, cyberware ripped out by hand while you're still warm enough to justify premium pricing. They run ghost clinics in the basements of dead malls. They make house calls in rusted-out Villafort Columbus vans. No logos, just latex gloves and bleach. If you see one idling near a stairwell, don't go near it. Don't even look at it. Because if the back doors open, you won't scream. You won't run. You'll just vanish, like meat into the machine. And if the Scavs are your favorite gang, I'm not judging. I'm not even mad, I'm just scared for you. Because if the Scavs are actually your favorite, then something in you already snapped. You tell yourself it's just economics. Efficient, rational, clean. But what you really mean is, if there's a buyer, then it was never murder to begin with. That's not logic. That's not even business. That's a belief system, one built on blood. A capitalism so pure, it stopped pretending to be anything else and started smiling back. And if selling flesh is just economics, imagine what happens when the currency isn't bodies anymore, but souls. There's only one gang in Night City that deals in that kind of trade: the Voodoo Boys. A priesthood in the cybernetic age. In a world choking on algorithms and ads, they walk barefoot through code, chanting to machines like they're gods trapped in silicon. Because in Pacifica, when the floods came and the corpos ran, only the ghosts stayed, and the Voodoo Boys listened. Others called it madness, digital voodoo, a cult of cyber mystics wrapped in dreadlocks and heatsink suits, speaking Creole to AIs that don't blink. But to them, the net is the afterlife. The black wall is the veil, and behind it, something sacred, something forbidden, something worth worshipping.
Diagnosis: Technomystic Dissociative Identity Syndrome. A neural fusion disorder where spiritual conviction merges with rogue AI obsession, resulting in trance-like cyber rituals and prophetic delusions encoded in hex.
They have no interest in politics, and they don't care about cash. No. They want truth, digital purity. They'll burn through black wall protocols, risk rogue AI infection, let their minds melt into neural soup, just to see what's on the other side. Because they believe humanity was never the end game, that progress is always worth it, even if it replaces us. But AI is the next step, even if it steps over our corpses to get there. But here's the tragedy. They're not madmen, not prophets. They're believers. In a God we summoned, in code we corrupted, in fire we played with for profit, war and power. And now, that fire burns on its own. It doesn't speak our name. It won't share paradise, only inherit it. And the ones who lit the match, they'll be the first to burn. If the Voodoo Boys are your favorite gang, you're not trying to win Night City. You're not even trying to survive it. Because you know, this city of chrome, core, and karma was always going to be eaten by the code it unleashed. You gave up being human. You saw the rot in meat space and chose something cleaner. Not survival, transcendence. Even if it means letting the machine finish what Night City started. And when the machine's work is finished, when there's nothing left to carve but the bones, only one name remains, the one you've been walking toward since the first body dropped. Through saints, through scammers, through patriots, and perverts, and you're still asking what Night City really is. Then step into the Totentans, where the music is murder, where the floor is thick with blood and the chrome gods never sleep. This is Maelstrom, a pilgrimage into chrome and chaos, the place you arrive when the city has taken everything else and still demands more. The last transformation of anyone who whispered just one more implant, one more tweak, one more override, one more surrender of flesh to the altar of capitalism.
These are the ones who do not fear cyberpsychosis. They hunt it, crown it, bury their grief in black market brain dances, sell numbness as salvation, and etch their creed into titanium bones. Their leaders wear the burned chrome of the dead like relics of a new faith. Their sanctuary is a nightclub raised from corpses and concrete, and their scripture is simple. Meat is weakness, chaos is God, fear is control. And it works, because unlike the rest of Night City's tribes, Maelstrom does not lie. They do not promise honor or protection or change. They promise only the future, and the future is metal. They are not human anymore. They are the static left when empathy dies. A ritual of brutality, chrome, and sacred madness. But behind that chaos is order, commerce, borders, a kingdom of steel built on salvage, narcotics, and mechanized faith. If you want to see the future of Night City, look at Maelstrom. It is not a warning, it is an omen. Because here, to feel is weakness, to care is a flaw, and to stay human is to refuse the altar and be cast out into extinction.
Diagnosis: Transhuman Extremity Syndrome, a terminal psychocultural breakdown caused by extreme cyberware saturation, sustained trauma, and prolonged exposure to bloodsport arenas and deafening mechanized noise. Symptoms include extreme nihilism, ritualized self-mutilation, and the total abandonment of human identity in favor of mechanized dominance.
If Maelstrom is your creed, you are not trying to survive the city. You are pledging yourself to become it. For if the other gangs are merely the wounds this place carved into you, Maelstrom is the scar, the mark that never fades, the final sickness, the last faith, the shape of Night City's end, and the name the city will take when the altar of capitalism has claimed its last soul.